As a South African, and more importantly as a black South African, an important account to follow on Twitter is a gentleman who goes by the name Sizwe Sigamusi. His handle is @Sizwelo. On the 16th of May 2022 at about 20 to 4 in the afternoon, he wrote this thread that I would like to read for you guys at this moment. When you really think about it, the end of official apartheid and scrapping of some of its laws was actually very good for many white South Africans. In brackets, also, why nothing ever changes. One example is the Group Areas Act, GAA. When this law was in place, Indian people in Natal were confined to specific areas like Verulam, La Mercy, Tongaat, etc. This made land scarce, and so property prices were artificially higher than in neighboring white suburbs. When the GAA was scrapped in 1991, Indians wanted to live in the better maintained and serviced white suburbs. So the whites sold their houses to them for up to 4 times the existing market values. Hence, homes in white suburbs, which were sold to whites for 80,000 Rand, were being sold for at least 350,000 Rand to Indians. A new pricing structure was created based on the sudden demand by Indians. Prices went even higher when more Africans started attaining middle and upper class status in the mid-90s. The demand for property in the previously white-only areas grew even more. A 14,000 Rand house in 1970 sold for 280,000 Rand in 1996, 1.2 million Rand in 2006, and is today worth almost 2 million Rand. The same principle was applied to businesses, shares, farms, etc., which were sold to blacks at inflated prices. That's how a lot of generational wealth was created. Now, the GAA wasn't just about different races living apart. It also meant throughout apartheid, the government spent a lot of money to maintain and service white areas. When the GAA ended, Africans needed to be closer to work opportunities in the cities, but could not afford to buy houses like the Indians, who were paid more. So they flooded the inner cities. White people moved out, and the apartheid government stopped looking after these areas. The combination of the withdrawal of government funding and the influx of poor people meant areas like Durban CBD, Hillbrow in Johannesburg, and Sunnyside in Pretoria went from upmarket and middle class to decrepit and derelict within a few years, even months in some cases. When the new government came in, it had a few big problems. The biggest one being the state had been heavily looted in the late 80s. So there was no money to continue doing what the Boer government had been doing to revive and maintain the inner cities. Another problem facing the government was the sheer volume of poor people who did not even have the most basic services like water and electricity all over the country. The existing infrastructure had been built for a small minority and could in no way absorb so many people. Also, the apartheid government had taken out a lot of debt which the ANC government had agreed to pay back. So even before they came into power, they were in huge debt. So they decided to take out a loan with the IMF, 2.7 billion Rand in 1993, to try and expand the infrastructure. The thing with apartheid is that it appeared to be efficient precisely because it didn't need to be. All that was required for them was to look after 8% of the population. To accomplish this, they took out billions of rands in debt which they looted and never repaid. However, the new government found that development in South Africa without segregation was almost impossible. Businesses that had worked together with the previous regime were leaving the country because they found they could not do business without apartheid laws. The IMF and World Bank also entered the scene and started insisting that state-owned companies needed to start to make a profit for the first time in history. Not only did these companies not have the capacity to serve the majority of people, now they needed to do it at a profit. Further, American banks came in too. and demanded that they be accommodated in the constitution of the country to make up for the removal of apartheid laws. The, in inverted commas, government of national unity did not say no because they wanted to be part of the global community. The point here is that any government that came after apartheid was set up for failure from the start, and this hasn't changed. Any administration taking over this country will invariably fail, and I imagine the ANC and anyone who's been in it already knows this fact. In the end, people can vote until they are blue in the face. Under this constitution, nothing will ever change. Only revolutionary change will fix this country. Even Nelson Mandela and P.W. Botha understood this. @Sizwe Law on Twitter. This is Penuel the Black Pen.